When I started making sugar flowers, and then especially when I started adding wires to individual petals, the really frustrating thing is when you make them, set them up for 12 hours or overnight, and these spin on the wire. It's so frustrating, and it's really hard to assemble a flower when these are spinning. Really simple to fix this problem, and I'm just going to take you through how I do that. Now, the first thing that you really should do is use wires that are cotton threaded. So these are the florist wires that actually have like a little bit of texture to them. They have a cotton thread wrapped around them versus the wires that are specifically for actual floral work when you're using real fresh flowers. So just make sure that you are going to your sugar craft department and buying the ones that were specifically designed for sugar flower making. You can use the other wires, but you're definitely more likely to run into trouble, so I would just use this. Now, in previous videos, I have done the method where you light the end of these wires, make them really hot with the flame of a candle and insert them. That can work because it heats up the sugar paste, but if you're having trouble, just stick to the method of using an edible glue or egg whites to insert these into your petals. So going with a really good quality gum paste and a paste that is suitable for making flowers, so that will be your sugar florist paste or your gum paste or Mexican paste. Make sure it's not just straight up fondant. Now, you might already be versed in how to do this, but for those of you who aren't, I'll just run you through how you make a veined petal in the first place. So you want to go in, put in a little bit of cornstarch on your veiner board. Make sure that you're using the bottom of your board. So when we roll this down, the bottom bit gives you a really nice thick edge, and I'll show you this when I've rolled this out. So I'm rolling out my petal and then taking a cutter. We'll flip this over, and then what you'll see is that this bottom bit here is quite thick. And that's the bit that is going to be the bottom of your petal. So make sure you are cutting right where this bottom bit is, because that thickness is where your wire is going to insert into. So you see I'm using the bottom bit right here, and I'm cutting so that the bottom of my petal is the thickest bit. Okay, and then taking your wire, you want to dip this into your glue and get a good amount of glue on there. So we can wipe off the excess so it's not too sticky, but just make sure that you have a fairly generous amount if this is a problem you're running into a lot. And then I have my index finger on the back of this flower, and then I'm threading the wire, and twist as you go. This can really help. So just push through, thread, and remember that it's going through the vein that we've created, this channel here, and it's not to go through the front of your petal. So the reason we've made this thickness at the back is so that the wire only goes through the channel we've made. It goes in about 1.5 centimeters into the back of your petal. If you have a gap, that's not a problem. We can just press this over here. Now, this is where people are running into trouble, because you need to close in this hole at the bottom. What you can do, dip your fingers in a little bit of cornstarch here so that it doesn't get too sticky, and then close that down onto the wire. So squeeze it and pinch it and slightly pull the paste down onto the wire and close it right down onto there. I'm going to just tidy up the back so I can see my wires moving a bit. I'll just press that down quite nicely, but that's it. Really nice, gentle touches. And you see that should really hold. That should hold on nice and firmly. And then I would leave these for a day to set up. So if you can wait an entire 24 hours, that's always going to be best, because then you know these are going to firm up really, really well, and then you'll be able to work on them and they shouldn't be spinning around. Go ahead, use your leaf or petal veiners here, soften the edges, and then rest them in the former that you've chosen so that they set up overnight. But they really should now stay firm and not spin on the wire. This is the area that you want to focus on. Squeeze that paste down onto the wire, make sure it's closed, and they should really stay firm and not pull out. You also want to make sure you're using the right gauge of wire for your petals. So typically you want to use a 24 or a 26 gauge wire. That is your kind of mid-range wire that will just have a medium level of thickness. If you go into the higher numbers like 28 and 30, they're very, very thin and are not going to hold the weight of the sugar paste. It won't hold the weight of your petal. Again, if you go onto the lower numbers, like the 18 gauge, those are very, very thick wires, and we use those for bigger pieces of sugar paste. So typically you'll use that to make your rose buds, so the center of the flowers that you're affixing all of these petals to. So hopefully that makes sense. I want to thank the person who did put this in the comments and say that they were having trouble here, because that really helps me to actually put up content that is helpful for you. Again, if you have any questions, please post it in the comments below. I'm always happy to help and share my knowledge. So the more feedback I can get, the better content I can put up for you guys. Happy baking,